Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Mr. Huel Babineau. Greet your public. Huel, played with deadpan, adenoidal perfection by Lavelle Crawford. You will remember this singular gent as Saul Goodman's imposing, bullet-headed bodyguard in Breaking Bad, a guy as big as a mountain but with hands deft enough for a career as a wallet snatcher. He returned in Chicanery, as this episode is called, to provide the trick that we all knew Jimmy McGill had up his sleeve for the disbarment hearing. Specifically, it is Huel who slips a cell phone battery into a jacket pocket of Jimmy's ostensibly battery-phobic brother, Chuck. We know that Huel has done something agile-fingered when he bumps into Chuck on a stairwell during a hearing timeout, but only at the very end of the show do we learn what that something is. What does it prove that Chuck has a cell phone battery in his jacket pocket? A fact we already knew, that his aversion to all things electromagnetic is psychosomatic, not physical. And this plays a role in Jimmy's defense, the core of which is that Chuck hates his brother and that it is this hatred which lay behind the plot to tape Jimmy's confession and the breaking and entering charge, not some spotless reverence for the majesty of the law. If I follow the logic of Jimmy's cross-examination, it goes like this. Chuck's hatred leads him to an elaborate charade centered upon a long-time claim that he is stricken with electromagnetic hypersensitivity, or EHS. The battery in the pocket moment proves that Chuck has no genuine physical aversion to electromagnetic anything, and the fact that he never told his wife, Rebecca, and Cusack about this malady supports the notion that Chuck has been playing a long con. What's striking about this line of reasoning is that Jimmy knows it is malarkey. He knows that even if Chuck's symptoms are psychosomatic, they are authentic, not a show. Jimmy's argument is a lie told to tarnish Chuck as a liar. At the same time, Chuck acknowledges that he was playing up his symptoms in order to provoke Jimmy's confession, so he is a connivore too. The layers of deception here are deep and complicated. It's hard to see how the thrust of Jimmy's argument would fully mitigate against the charge against him, but the ultimate point of planting the battery and inviting the Rebecca is surely the rant they provoke from Chuck right before we fade to black. He loses his composure and erupts with a lifetime of resentments against Jimmy, the younger brother who always skates through life, despite choices that are immoral, callous, or just plain stupid. Chuck even resurrects the moment when, as a much younger man, Jimmy defecated through the sunroof of a car. This spittle-inflected monologue stops the proceedings. Behold, a man unhinged, motivated by hatred, eager to victimize a brother he has long despised. If that was Jimmy's plan, it needed about as many events to unfold perfectly as Chuck's plan to lure Jimmy into a felony did. Both are Rube Goldberg contractions, all the more improbable for relying on the emotional reactions of their targets. Both come off without a flaw. Really though, the outcome of the hearing is very much up in the air. We don't know what the lawyer judges will make of all this. And then there's the aftermath. One of the photos Jimmy introduces into evidence is of a stack of newspapers in Chuck's house beneath a gas lantern. The top newspaper will have a date. The date could at least signal to Chuck that the handyman who visited in the previous episode was sent by Jimmy to do some amateur photography. Chuck still doesn't fathom the depths of the chicanery he mentions on the stand. Still, if Chuck could bust Jimmy for that date-specific photo, why would Jimmy introduce it into evidence? It seems too obvious a mistake for such a clever and devious mind. After spending most of the last episode on the drug cartel plot, I was bummed that neither Gus nor Hector appeared in this one. I get the dramatic rationale for focusing on this hearing. It's just that when you spot the names Giancarlo Esposito and Mark Margolis in the opening credits, you go all Pavlovian for some bad behavior, and not of the white-collar variety. Question. Are Jimmy and Kim like a couple? They sort of seem to be in this episode, but they did not in the previous few. Either way, they have zero physical chemistry. I can't figure out if this is because the writers want to keep their relationship ambiguous, or because they don't think that Bob Odenkirk or Rhea Seehorn can do passion, at least with each other. In the opening scene, a flashback dinner with Rebecca and Jimmy, Chuck's explanation for the lack of electric lighting is an error by the electric company in which the numbers of his address are transposed with those of a neighbor. At first I assumed the point here was to underscore Chuck's hypocrisy.